So you want to own a crested gecko. Congratulations! Crested geckos have to be one of the easiest reptiles to care for. However, with that being said, there are definitely some things you do need to know before getting one of these guys. But not to worry there, folks. I am here to tell you all you need to know about caring for a crested gecko in 5 easy steps. Those steps are going to be number 1, the enclosure size, number 2, heating and lighting, number 3, humidity, 4, the diet of the crested gecko, and then lastly, what to fill the enclosure with to make sure that your gecko is happy and healthy in its new home. With that intro out of the way, let's get into it with number 1, the enclosure size you're going to be needing for your crested gecko. When it comes to the enclosure size of the crested gecko, it's really determined on what size animal you're getting. If you're getting something like a captive bred and born baby, you're not going to put it in an enclosure that you're going to do for something like this, Pebbles the Chungus. My God, just look at the size of you. Why will you not lose weight? You are a chunky monkey. My God. Off with baby enclosures. Now when we're thinking about a baby enclosure, you're gonna want it relatively small, somewhere around the 5-gallon stage, or maybe the, I believe it's an 8x8x12 enclsoure makes. Personally over here, I love utilizing shoebox bins. I have a video on how to make those shoebox bins for a crested gecko. It's a cheap way to get it done with their care. It's a really nice temporary cheap enclosure because obviously they're not gonna stay that small forever. They're not gonna get this big necessarily because again, Jesus, but they will get a little bit larger and that way they will need a bigger home after that. However, when it comes to the adult size and caging, you wanna aim for something around a 20-gallon tall aquarium. Remember, these are arboreal geckos. They want height, not really length, or somewhere of them the substitutes of like the enclsoure and Zoomed line, that being the 18x18x24. However, if you wanna go bigger and better for your animal, then let's talk about today's sponsor, Zen Habitats. Zen Habitats is an enclosure company that makes absolutely amazing enclosures like the one right behind me or the one right beside me. Absolutely fantastic. Gone are the ways of the simple PVC build. Now you get something that looks like a living room for your reptile. When it comes to Zen Habitats, you could get an absolute mansion for your crested gecko. A 2-foot by 2-foot by 2-foot would be absolutely perfect for something like this size little dude. He would have an amazing time being in that big of an enclosure, and you would look very fancy with one enclosure that looks like this. If you're interested in any more information from Zen Habitats, don't forget to hit that little link I have in the description. Your boy gets a small cutback if you use that link, and I'd very much appreciate it. Let's move on. Know what proper enclosure to use for our crested gecko, it's time to move into the next topic at hand, which is going to be number 2, heating and lighting requirements for this little dude. I do believe this section is probably going to be the shortest section of all the care topics, and that's simply because, well, you don't really need anything. It's one of the reasons why I believe crested geckos are the easiest and most best beginner. They're a really good beginner reptile. And that stems with the fact that you don't really need heat. Crested geckos coming from New Caledonia prefer it somewhere around the 70 to high 70s area. Anything over 80, you're gonna wanna probably move it to another room. Anything over 80 is a little bit bad for these guys. And when it comes to low temps, anywhere around like, if you're getting below 65-ish, then I would recommend getting some night heating, whether that be a CHE bulb, some heat tape plugged into a thermostat, things of that nature. But for the most part, when it comes to all the general households, you really don't need anything in order to keep these guys happy. Okay, Dakota, they don't need any heating, but they're obviously gonna need like UVB because, I mean, everything has UVB. There's a bulb right there, so these guys obviously need it too. Well, their viewer, not really. They really don't need UVB. Don't get me wrong, it can definitely be an added benefit, the enclosure nice and light and bright, and then give the animal some UVB rays. I have noticed when I did utilize UVB for my crested geckos, they would bask on it. However, it's not really a necessity. They don't really need it to survive. I've been breeding crested geckos for years and years, and for the most part have not used UVB, and they've been absolutely fantastic, giving me a bunch of babies. A bunch. I got a lot of babies back there, and no need for UVB, so while yes, it can be an added benefit, it is not necessarily a necessity for having these guys. Wow, what an easy step with heating and lighting. You just don't use it. Absolutely fantastic. However, while the lighting and heating was a little bit of an easier topic, this one we will have to pay a little bit more attention to, and that is going to be number 3, the humidity requirements for a crested gecko. Honestly, this really is the only thing you kind of need to pay attention to. I mean, yeah, put them in a good enclosure size, but other than that, it's real easy. This is like the only tough thing, I guess. Like, comparatively, it's tougher, but it's really easy as well. Now, when we're talking about Crested Gecko humidity, you're gonna wanna hit somewhere around the 60 to 75% area. There are quite a few ways to make sure that you have the proper humidity. The most basic one is just gonna be misting your enclosures. Personally, for me, I do mine about once a day, but depending on where you are in the world, sometimes it's a little drier. Or maybe you're in Florida, where you probably don't even need to do anything because it's just humid 24/7 over there. If you guys do wanna know a little bit more tips and tricks on how to keep your humidity up, I did make a video. I'll put a little card right here for you. But honestly, just missing the cages once a day, for the most part, you're gonna be a-okay. We have a couple of these care topics under our belt. We only have a few more things to talk about, and that is gonna bring us to number 4, the diet of the Crested Gecko. Dakota, this is why I really don't wanna get into lizards. It's because they eat bugs, and I don't wanna hold crickets or roaches, superworms that bite you, and the bites actually hurt, comparatively speaking, to bugs. I don't wanna deal with that. That's the only reason why I haven't gotten into reptiles. Well, there, viewer, it's a good thing for you to know that when it comes to these guys, bugs are not a necessity. Talk about the diet of the Crested Gecko. It is very, very simple. They make a product for it. It's called Crested Gecko Food, CGD, Crested Gecko Diet. Now, the two companies I always recommend in getting that is going to be either Rapashi or Pangea. They're the big dogs in the game, and they make the best food, in my opinion. It's a very easy process to do. All you do is you get a deli cup, you fill it with the food. It's usually 2 parts food, 1 part water, or whatever. I usually just mix mine until I get like a ketchup consistency. You put that in your enclosure and they slurp it up, and that's it. That's the entire diet. You just mix some food, you put it in, and you're done. Easiest reptile to take care of. Get me wrong, Crested Geckos also enjoy the bugs. They do enjoy hunting, and if you do want to bulk your gecko up, maybe not this much, but bulk him up and make him a little bit bigger, he would always appreciate bugs. However, if you have somewhat of a phobia against bugs, you just absolutely cannot do it. You can't touch them, you're just that afraid of them. Well, not to worry, the Crested Gecko diet will keep your gecko going for the longevity of its life. Have it, folks. We almost know everything we need to know on how to care for a Crested Gecko. We've got the enclosure size, the heating and lighting, well, I guess the lack of heating and light, the humidity, the diet, and lastly, we only have one more thing to talk about, and that is gonna bring us to topic number 5, what to fill the enclosure with for your Crested Gecko. I mentioned a little bit earlier, Crested Geckos are an arboreal gecko. Look how high he wants to be. He doesn't want to be down here. You see, he's already kind of moving. He wants to be up here, next to eye level. He likes looking at me. And when it comes to what to fill the enclosure with for your Crested Gecko, it's relatively easy. You're just gonna need stuff that it likes to climb on. You already got that tall enclosure. Make sure your gecko can use every inch of it. Two biggest things I love for Crested Geckos are going to be branches and then the cork products, whether that be cork tubes or cork flats. There's a bunch of companies that make them. It's a really easy Amazon or Google search and you're gonna be able to find it. Branches I get from outside because it's free and I have a lot of reptiles and now it costs a lot of money in cork, so I just pull branches outside and I call it a day. Fake plants in there, or if you wanna get fancy, some real plants, and boom, there you have it. You have an absolutely beautiful enclosure for your animal to live out its life in. Wow, it is that easy. Why are you literally single-handedly the easiest thing to take care of? Look at them little head scratches. You're fat. There you have it, boys and girls. Everything you're gonna need to know about how to care for a Crested Gecko in 5 easy steps. As always, boys and girls, thank you so much for taking the time in your day to follow us over here at DBCB Exotics. If you enjoyed the content, enjoy me as a creator, consider becoming a BIMPSON gang member today for exclusive perks and added stuff. You get badges, emojis, all that cool stuff. It's right down there. As always, I will see you next time. Until then, actually, you can do it. Goodbye. Yeah, you're fat enough to cover the whole lens, Jesus Christ.